Hi, welcome to This Week in Ames. I'm Susan Guiazda. On today's show, we'll check in with Story County and learn a little bit about the upcoming elections. My guest today is Lucy Martin, auditor with Story County. Lucy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So you actually are the auditor, but you have a few other titles under your belt. Tell me a little bit about what you do for Story County.
The auditor has 5 main functions. One is as Commissioner of Elections. Another one is clerk to the Board of Supervisors. I'm also in charge of property records and the official map of the county, drainage records, and finance and budget.
It sounds like an awfully big job.
Right. Elections is about 20% on paper. When we're busy in an election, it's about 100%.
And we are into an election period.
Yes.
We have an election coming up, not just in Ames, but surrounding cities as well. What are some of the things you do to kind of gear up for the election?
Well, we've started working on this election probably back in August. The legislature changed the law in session 2014, so the auditor became the filing clerk for city elections. So that was new this year. Before that, it was the individual city clerks. And we have 14 cities in Story County, for which I am the control county. We also have Sheldall, but they go to Polk County because they're actually in 3 counties, just for fun. So we talk to candidates, advise them, look at their nomination papers. Of course, we get ready, packing equipment, supplies, and we have voting in our office as soon as ballots are ready. And I believe we started voting in my office on September 28th. So we've had about 510 voters, either by mail or in person, come in. 381 of those were from Ames.
And the absentee voting was, it's kind of an opportunity if you're not going to be around on election day or worried about not being able to vote, you could vote in advance.
Yeah, it's every election cycle it becomes more and more popular. I mean, a lot of people don't work in the same place where they live, and are they worried that they'll be caught up or they'll have something going on at school with the kids or have to stay late at work, or they don't want to wait in line. Depending on what time of day you go, it can be busy or very quiet. So
I know at one point absentee voting was specifically reserved for I'm not going to be in the country or something prevents me from voting, but those reasons you gave are very common reasons. People don't make it to the polls, and a totally acceptable reason to vote by absentee.
Right, we have no fault absentee voting. A lot of times when people come in to vote in the office, they want to explain why they can't vote, which is interesting but not required. So they'll say, oh, I have to travel, or I'm going to be away, or my wife's having a baby, or so it's interesting to hear people's reasons, but they don't have to give one at all. They could just say, I'm here, I was paying my property taxes downstairs, I decided to come up and vote. So.
And when does and there is a limit to the time they can absentee vote?
Right, the last day I can mail ballots is October 30th, which is a real fast turnaround. So anything
that's when you can mail them to the voter.
Right, and so then they can request them to be mailed. The last day to vote in person, if your polls open at 7 a.m. as they do in Ames, is Monday, November 2nd by 5 p.m. And right now, any time that my office is open, you can come in and vote 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
And if I've requested an absentee ballot, when is my last chance to mail it back?
It has to be postmarked by November 2nd. And because Ames has a runoff provision, the canvass for that election is November 5th, which is sort of our fastest turnaround for a canvass. So it would have to be postmarked by November 2nd, and I would have to receive it before noon on November 5th. And they can also be hand-delivered to my office on Election Day up to the close of polls, which is 8 p.m. But they can't be turned into a polling site. So if you requested one and I mailed it to you and you filled it out, and it's Election Day and you wanted to make sure that counted, you can't go to your polling place and say, here's my voted ballot. You can surrender that and be issued a ballot at the polls and vote there, or you can drive that ballot or have somebody drive it over to Nevada and deliver it
You don't have to personally deliver your own ballot.
No, anyone, you can give it to anybody to deliver. You don't, that's up to the voter who they trust to do that. So.
Wow. So voting really has evolved, and I know that out on the horizon is this idea that maybe we'll all electronically vote. But until then,
Yeah, electronic voting I think is still quite a ways out. I think other jurisdictions, other states have explored things like all mail balloting, and I think that's something that Iowa might explore since we do more and more absentee voting. I think 44% of Story County voters voted by absentee in the 2012 presidential election, which is the election that gets the most interest. We get about 70% turnout for that election. Compare that to a city election where we'll have about 15% turnout, school election 7%, and a governor's election 50%. So.
interesting. Well, we have an election coming up here at the
Right.
City of Ames. We know that we'll be getting at least one new city council person. There is a completely open, a vacated seat.
Right, the at-large position.
And then we have some people will be voting also for a ward position.
Right. Wards 2 and 4 have candidates on the ballot. Ward 2 is an uncontested race. The incumbent is the only person on the ballot. And then in Ward 4, we have the incumbent and a challenger. So if you're in Wards 1 and 3, then you'll only see that at-large race. You'll also see the hospital trustees on your ballot. Some people are surprised to see those. Mary Greeley Hospital is owned by the City of Ames. It's City of Ames doing business as Mary Greeley Hospital, and we have 3 trustees on the ballot. They're all incumbents, and they have 6-year terms.
So some people will get a ballot that has an at-large, a ward, and the Mary Greeley trustees. Some people will simply just get an at-large and the trustees.
Right, and all of our sample ballots are on our website. I did do a printout of it here, and you can tell when you go into the different ballots by the precinct, you can see the differences on those ballots. You'll also see the rotation of the candidates. So sometimes, we rotate depending on the precinct so that one person's on top and then the other, so they don't have the first place preferential treatment. Some people will just simply check the first person on every list. There are studies that prove this. I haven't actually, looked at them or done it myself, but there is a slight preference.
So one of the questions we get a lot is people don't know what ward they're in. So 2 questions. They don't know what ward they're in or where to vote. So how can they get that information?
If they're registered to vote, it's on their voter card, and it lists their precinct and their polling place for the city election, which is your same location that you vote for primary, general elections, and city. They can also call my office, 515-382-7210, and they can check on their registration status and find out their polling place. They can go on the website, and we have what's called the voter information system. You can type in your address, and it'll pull up your precinct and tell you where to vote, and also give you the polling place hours.
Well, and I found your website, and also we've tried to mirror some of that information on the City of Ames website to show people, how the wards divide out, where they might be located. It's not exact. I think if you're on the line, you want to check.
Right. Sometimes people will see a polling place and think, oh, well, that's close to my house. That must be where I go vote. Not necessarily. Is that true? We have a lot of polling places that are on main routes. Other ones are more tucked away. If you do go to the wrong polling place, our electronic poll book, which is called Precinct Atlas, it'll print out where you're supposed to go. Obviously, you should check beforehand because people get frustrated if they go to one polling place and are told that, no, you have to go to another one. So we try to limit that and tell people to inform themselves before heading out to vote to check and make sure.
And just a reminder that the last election we had, which was a school board election, it was sort of open voting where you could go to any.
We use vote centers,
Okay.
and that's allowed under Iowa code for school elections and city elections and certain special elections. We can't use them for federal elections. You have to go to your residential polling place. Because the school election turnout the average is 7% countywide. It's actually, I think, lower in Ames. We had about 5.8% turnout in this last election. It's easier for us to consolidate precincts and let people go and vote where it's most convenient. And we We've used 7 vote centers and 8 vote centers in Ames. I think people are getting used to the idea for school elections that that's how they vote.
But for the city election, they need to go to their assigned place. Just can't go where they see the vote here sign.
Right, and that's hard. That's hard to make that switch. With such a low turnout with the school election, opening 20 precincts in Ames would be, very costly for the school. So it's a way to let people have convenience, but also to save a little bit on the cost of the election.
So at the city election, are there then 20 polling places?
precincts,
And,
yeah.
and they're open from what times?
7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay, and again, there's information on the Story County website. That's storycounty.com, as well as cityofames.org.
StoryCountyIowa.gov.
Oh, sorry.
We changed our address, I think 2 years ago now. So
I better get with it.
if you go to storycounty.com, I think you still get thrown
redirects.
into, yeah.
Okay, but the proper one is, go ahead and give it
Story County, Iowa, all spelled out.
.gov. Or cityofames.org, both places you can go to get your polling information.
Right.
Lucy, thank you so much for stopping by. This is always helpful. It's a good reminder for people. There are changes, and it's always good for people to know. And the big election day is?
November 3rd.
Tuesday, November 3rd.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you for stopping by.
Oh, thank you.
Again, if you want more information on voting in Ames or in Story County, remember those websites, cityofames.org and storycountyiowa.gov. More information about Ames events is available on our website, including Yard Waste Free Days. Don't forget those. The first one is October 24th, but if you missed that one, it's okay. We have Yard Waste Free Day on Saturday, November 7th, Saturday, November 21st, and Saturday, December 5th. So mark your calendars for those dates. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for watching, and tune in next week for This Week in Ames.